Hello guys, it's Peter from PS Sound, and now Eddie will be surprised because I'm gonna record him working a bit.
Talking with the phone.
Exactly. So no, we are going to have just a bit of public content of this build because many people have vans, especially in UK, and it's interesting for them what they can do in a van like this. Which one is it? The Vivaro?
It's a Renault.
It's a Renault. So yeah, something like that. So this car had a build in it by the customer, put in by the customer, and he's done a pretty good job. But when he came to us a few months ago, we could see that it needed a bit of TLC because it didn't sound right at all. And he thought that it was because of the equipment, it wasn't quite right. And then after I saw what was in the car, I told to him that we are not taking anything out, we're keeping everything. We just tweak the installation and then tune it properly and it will be stunning. They didn't want to believe until he heard some of our demo cars with cheaper equipment, and I told him that he should sound even better than what he was shown. So what are we doing in this van? So he had a three-way Focal KRX3 set. Is there a knot at the back? Is there a knot at the back? It's not coming off. Okay. So he had a KRX3 set on the pillars, just fitted onto the pillar trim in these aluminium pods. Quite many people use because it's easy. They don't have the fiberglass. They don't have to have, a big challenge to fit the speakers. I think these are the classic ones coming off eBay from Germany. And yeah, at least he can put the speakers on the pillar. But they were flimsy and moving around, and we could have just tuned it as is, but he said that he would rather want the speakers to be installed properly as fixed part of the pillar. So that's what we are going to do. We design now mounting rings for them. They are running in the 3D printer, although he had some trim rings for these grills, but we are not going to use them for now. It's a great set, there's nothing wrong with it. He thought he would have to change it because they're just not up to scratch. I told him, no, we are not taking these out, putting something else in. These speakers are actually great, I like them. We don't use them as much as we should. It's also because this set cannot be bought in separates. And that's just annoying. Plus it comes with a passive crossover that we never need. Otherwise, it's a good sounding three-way set. Many people misjudge it because it's not set up correctly and it can sound harsh easily, but it's just because these speakers are very, very transparent. They show not just the good but the bad, and they show the bad even easier. So if the installation is poor, the tuning is just not right, then they will sound shit. Put it simple, that's it. That's the case with most speakers, but these show it even more. So once these are tuned, I tuned the car with these a few months ago, they sounded stunning. So we have to install those on the pillar. Then we wanted to check the mid-bass installation, and he said that the spacers were MDF. He ordered them on eBay, and I said that, if he wants to use this van for a longer period of time, then those have to be swapped. But at least we have the template now. Using that, we can get proper rings on, made out of birch ply, which is waterproof. But people could use anything, HDP or whatever else. Because he said they were painted. Yes, they are painted, but paint doesn't stop moisture to get into MDF. They would have to be resined. But it's easy enough to make them from birch, and then that will last. That's more rigid as well. It's not going to separate and fall apart. But he did a pretty good job. There's deadening inside, outside. What's this? Was this foam in there already?
Yes.
Behind the driver? Yeah. The outer skin doesn't quite feel right, but we will see what we can do about that. It's not a premium car, it's a work van, so there's only so much you can do to it. Door cards, were they treated?
Yes, they do have foam
okay.
And deadening.
So he did a pretty good job, but he had limitations on the installation in terms of time, and it was tricky. It was very, very tricky to get all this in when there's no shelter, there's no garage, and everything has to be done on the street. The wiring is tidy. He felt ashamed bringing the car and showing it to us, but I'm like, there's nothing to be ashamed for. Everything is cable tied, labeled, it's tidy, it's screwed down. So he has a Helix V12. First he had the V8 and he thought he didn't have enough power. So he got the V12, he has more channels, then he could add extra mid-bass drivers, well, kick bass drivers underneath the seats. Because maybe even Eddie doesn't know that we have the Focal subs underneath the seats too.
I know about them.
Okay. So he has freeway plus the I-subs running off that with spare channels, and then the RC output from the V12 comes to this monoblock running a 12-inch sub there in a sealed, quite decent sized sealed box here. So the bulkhead was cut and bolted down to the floor here and at the front, plus it's pulled to, I think, to the bulkhead and sealed against with closed cell foam. So yeah, overall it's absolutely fine in the Berkwan. It's a fine installation. There's deadening on the bulkhead too. We will check how you know all this is gonna work out, but we have to transform the system and make it sound good, because it sounded pretty bad. Because okay, it was also coming off the factory hedge unit on speaker levels, and that's a pretty poor source. So we will fit the hack Bluetooth module to the V12, so he will be able to stream directly from his phone to the DSP, and that will give a million times better sound quality. So that's what we have, and you will see what it's going to be like in a few days time. Here we go. So this is the end now, and before the van rolls out, I always keep the customers up. They want to go home, and no, we still have to take pictures, we have to take videos, and most of them end up on my hard drive, and I never shared them, share those videos on YouTube. But no, that's why now we just keep it short. Unfortunately, you won't see any progress of the build. You will see a few pictures, how we build the pillars, how we sorted out the door. But this way it's less work for me, and I can easily share how you can get a fantastic system in a van. In many countries, maybe it's not as popular as in UK, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Work vans are more popular in UK than in other countries. Of course, vans are, you know, everywhere. But less and less people think about getting good sound in a van, because it's just not really ideal. Especially the way these vans come from factory. They are quite rattly, so fair amount of treatment has have to be done. And that's why we double checked what was happening in the doors. It was really well treated in and outside. We added a bit more deadening behind the driver, an extra square foot to make it stronger, make it thicker. But sadly, these doors are just not designed for mid-bass performance. And I think we even had one of those daily updates on Patreon when we showed the quality of the doors. But it's such a large flat panel without any bracing, steel bracing, that even if you put triple layer of 2mm or a multi-layer 5mm thick deadening on the door card, sorry, not the door card, the outer skin, it will still flex. You can physically see the door moving when the mid-bass driver is playing loud, and that results in uncontrolled, flappy, muddy bass, which most people don't realize. That's why we hate doors. And even in this one, we had to change the mounting rings to birch ply rings, because originally there were MDF rings in there. And was it you adding the extra 12mm layer to it, nailed on it?
The magnet bottomed out, so I had to.
You had to space it further.
Yeah, I had to bring it a little further.
Which was fine, except that the extra layer was only nailed on it.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So, yeah, we sorted it out. Now that's not going to fall apart, and it's not going to be affected by the moisture. So it's installed as good as it can be done from a door build. But as I say, people would expect magic, because they have a lot of power, big chunky 4K mid-bass driver. I like that driver a lot, but it doesn't do justice, because these doors are just not a great environment for any mid-bass. People could spend 4 times more on a speaker. We could throw the Utopia mid-bass in the door, it would be still shit. People really have to understand that good mid-bass is more complex than buying expensive speakers. It's really about the location where you put it in a car, what application the driver is in, and how rigid the mounting is. Just like I always tell to people, compare it to a home speaker. When you have some speakers like Bowers and Wilkins, and they have like a matrix
structure inside, bracing the whole cabinet, that's not gonna buzz, not gonna move and rattle. So the only sound that comes out of the speaker is only coming out of the speaker, not in this case. So the mid bass here plays all the way down to the range it has to play down to, but it's not delivering control tight bass. So it's one thing to measure the RTA and then see the curve, which is there, but in terms of tonality, it's just not. So the good thing is that I showed probably at the beginning of the video that we have these iSub twin little boxes, tiny little boxes with these weird oblong drivers, and some of you might have seen us using these before. This time it wasn't my choice, it was already in there, because at least Lee had a bit of knowledge, I guess, after following all the videos. And when did you make a decision that you need these?
I saw one of your videos, and it just made most sense for the space I had available.
So we had these in few cars, and for the money they are great to add extra kick bass. We tried them in few cars where we were trying to use them as mid bass, replacing the mid bass speaker and then using these in between the sub and the mids. That's a difficult thing, but as an additional kick bass in a car, especially if you have your multi-channel amplifier with spare channels, it's a no-brainer because it's relatively inexpensive and these don't rattle and they give extra nice tight kick. So once now these were tuned to the door mid-bass speakers, time aligned to them, well, of course, to the listening position, and the response was sorted out, drivers left to right in phase, in time, they blend in, they sum up, and they give that extra kick that the system is really crying for. Because expecting magic from the door mid bass, oh, there you go, now you can see it through the speaker grill, integrating that mid bass to the sub is just not quite happening. There's no tight punch and kick in the car, but with these now we do. It blends in well.
It's beautiful.
You can't even tell.
No.
But we programmed them on the Helix DSP to the rear fill output, because that way we can use the rear fill attenuation on the conductor, and then now you can turn it down as well, you can turn it off, so you can hear what it's like with or without. Especially in a working van like this where the road noise is higher and drains the bass out in the car, it's a must, I think. Or, to be fair, if you didn't put the amp rack there, you could have built a not on driver's side because you have more electronics and different bracket there. But here on this side you could have built a full-size mid-bass enclosure. But then where would you put the amplifiers? Right? So, well, it worked out for us. I could tune it in and they work fantastic. Monoblock still sitting there, as showed earlier. And yeah, the V12 is in there with extra 4 spare channels. What do we do with them? Refill? Yeah, you're asking me. You know, there's plenty of space up there, although it would be right next to the head, but I could tune it, you know, attenuate the level, even if it's right next to you. Could be a thing for a boring day, just because you have extra channels. So there's still potential that could be done in this van. The sub works great, firing into the cabin from the back. That Focal sub, for the money, I find it beautiful. It may not be the most accurate, but it's beautifully musical. It plays the lows crazy, and even in a small, short cabin, it plays really low. When you drop the window, you can feel proper pressure too. So I'm happy with that, because we had few vans with different type of subs and they could just never play low. They didn't have extension below 35. They had punchy, nice musical upper bass, but anything below 35, nothing. This plays down to 23 in this short cabin really well. And because you have the extra throw, excursion and power in the monoblock, it delivers really well. So, well, you also notice that this sub now sounds a bit different.
Yeah, very different
compared to what you had before. So we fitted the HD Bluetooth module in the V12, so now we can stream. So the previous source as such is gonna only stay for phone calls and radio, nothing else. Factory head units are just yeah, especially on speaker level. But now with the HD Bluetooth module, the system just came alive. Even without settings, I put the system on yesterday night, I think. Yeah, I pulled the system together. No, Wednesday evening. I pulled the system together after the pillars went in, and even basic settings, the system just came alive and it was playing really nicely. And then of course the pillars. That was our main task, because the previous installation left room for improvement, shall I say. Although that was the easiest for you. Yeah.
It was the only thing I had time for.
Yeah.
It was all off.
And it could have been okay if these pillars would clip in better, because sadly the factory clips are just nice sturdy. Yeah, we can't do anything with that. This should sit like this. It will never, sadly. And when you have big aluminium pods bolted to the trim, of course everything is moving because the pillar is just not solid. Now we built it solid in our usual manner. So the pillars have a wooden structure, fiber field in and out, milkshake at the back with steel powder, so the whole pillar is rigid. We have literally zero resonance, nothing, no resonance that you can hear from the mids. And we also put a speaker cloth on the mids because, yeah, that yellow cone is just a bit too shouty. Can we see through? Yeah. So we 3D printed this grill and we designed the mounting knowing that we would add a grill, so this way it came nice and flush, which is a little detail, but yeah, we pay attention to those little things. So now this has turned into a system. Instead of just having many speakers making noise, it wasn't even making noise. You couldn't even turn it up because you couldn't enjoy it, could you?
No.
Yeah, but finally this has turned into probably one of the best sounding fun systems in a van. It's definitely great fun. As soon as you want to have live concert feeling, whether you play rock, hip hop, electronic music, the system delivers with great separation, staging, and yeah, it's great. We were smiling in it with Eddie as well. I couldn't fault the mid high frequency range in the van. Imaging is a bit tricky in such a wide van. It's always tricky, but overall musically it's fantastic. Spectral balance is great, and you have a lot of headroom on the sub right now. You can have fun with that. Actually, I'm gonna show yeah, so that's the sub breathing through the bulkhead where it was cut out. The bulkhead may need a bit more deadening because we can see that flexing 1/4 of an inch on higher levels, especially in the top section. There's deadening there, but yeah, this needs just loads and loads more. We added a bit of deadening to the roof. That changes the flat panels on the top straight away. People want to see full coverage, thinking that that's what's required, but actually from deadening that's perfectly enough. If people wanted to create a quieter environment when the bulkhead is not in and they want to soundproof the whole van, then deadening is not going to do it. Then yeah, different type of materials would have to go up, several layers of absorbers, stuff like that, and that would make a difference. But you don't need that because you have a bulkhead and that cuts the noise off from the back. So this is where we are. How many hours did we put into it? We added it up. I don't know. We didn't have to do much. Pillars, mid-bass install, take the amp out, fit the card, a bit of sound deadening. So this was an easy transformation for us, considering that you wanted to take everything out of it.
Yeah, I was all for starting again. I'd lost heart with it totally.
Yeah. And you were very surprised when I told you at the beginning that no, we are going to keep everything.
Yeah, I didn't believe you, but
what, Pete, you're okay with these speakers? I'm like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with these Focal speakers. Many people easily misjudge them because in most cars they sound shit. They sound harsh.
yeah,
That's always what people tell about Focal. What's harsh in this car?
now
Yeah.
nothing.
And it's beautifully detailed, it's natural, but because especially the tweeters are a bit more transparent than most tweeters, Although this is now the latest model tweeter, and this is definitely better than previous models. Those, yeah, had a bit of tendency to scream a bit, even easier. But because Fokker tweeters are more transparent, they are less forgiving for the lack of tuning. So if a system is not tuned properly and people don't know how to get rid of the peaks in the response, like most cars have at the lower high frequency range, anything between 3 and 6k cuts people's heads off, and then they say, oh, Fokker tweeters have to be crossed high like 6-8, then they are musical and then they are bearable. No, they just have to learn that tuning is something that cannot be skipped. That's the most important part at the end. That's what brings the whole system together and makes it something else, something different. I always emphasize that tuning is super important, and we offer sessions. We offer tuning sessions for other people's cars. So if you're in the UK, you are more than welcome to have a word with us. We can book you in and we can transform the car. And I always say that I have 100% guarantee. If someone comes to us and someone is not happy with the results, what difference I can make with a tuning session, then they don't have to pay. They can just go away. You can go away. You don't have to pay. But I will delete the preset and you will go away with what you came with. So there you go. 100% confidence. Right? Now you know.
I know, yeah.
Now you know the difference. And many people who have had their cars tuned, they know. And they will never regret it. So here we are at the end of a simple little van project. So what's next now? You just have to enjoy it. Hopefully.
For now, yeah, hopefully, yeah.
There's already a smile there, because just so people know, you were already asking me before hearing the van, Pete, what else would you change on it? What else would you add to it? And people have to realize that there's always a limitation. The environment, the car, it is what it is. You can't really change it unless you change the car. And I haven't even shared my car yet, the new car. That will change people's attitude towards listening in a car, because this as a van is rather loud on the road. Although the doors are soundproof now, so that definitely helps. And now you have headroom in the car or in the system to turn it up, so that will help. But honestly, the way I look at this system, I wouldn't change anything. It works beautifully. If someone walks through with the same van, I would design exactly the same system. Maybe the components, change a bit here and there, depending on personal preference of the owner or the budget. But overall, the layout we have, it works great.
That's all I needed to hear. I can sleep tonight.
The only thing that you will have to do, that we were talking about, is to deaden that rear bulkhead in and outside, both sides. Deaden the shit out of it. Because if that rattles less, that transmits less vibration to the rest of the car, to the roof, to the top and everywhere. You will have less buzzes. Although you only ever really hear those buzzes when you send the system to proper levels, and there are parts in the music where you don't have anything else playing other than the bass. As soon as you have the mid-range and the high frequency range playing loud, they mask it over. So, but you will see.
Yeah.
You will see. You will surely have the best drive going home.
Yeah, I can't wait.
That's the best bit. It's
No
always
way out.
great. Yeah. So here we are, guys. We will end this video here. Before I go, I have to mention, as always, because many of you don't know, we have a Patreon channel where we share a lot of behind the scene content. And if you want to see, for example, how this car measures, how the tuning session worked out on this, if you want to see the RTA evaluation, then that will be shared on Patreon, as well as we have weekly topics there, daily walkarounds, behind the scenes stuff. We share a lot of stuff over there that we cannot share on YouTube, and it's for your benefit. Of course, if you sign up, you help us too, but that we really appreciate. But if now you sign up, you can go back now almost 2 years worth of content. As of now it's 2022 and the channel started in November 2020. There's a lot of content there. and you can learn a lot from it. If you don't like it, you can sign off anytime, but yeah, we have 230 people right now who, yeah, it's pretty constant number, and everyone learns a lot from all the content we share there, so I can only recommend it. You can find the link in description, so check it out. All right, I'm gonna leave it here, and we will see what I can share next with you guys. Take care.